What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the basement. We're here with Iqbal Ali, who is an indie creator. Iqbal, thanks for coming on the show, man. Salud.
Thank you for having me.
It's 11 a.m. here in New York, so I'm going to keep it a little ambiguous for now.
Mine's ambiguous too. It's 4 p.m. over here. So.
All right. So, bro, you hit me up on Instagram and said, hey, you want to check out my comics? I'm like, I'm always down for checking out something new, and I feel that Pete's Basement has always been a friend to the indie creator because, I mean, we know what it's like, you know? We're a lowly basement podcast. And I got to tell you, just from reading the first issues of your comics, they're awesome, bro. Like, really.
Oh, thanks so much.
These are dope, man. Like, before we get into the titles themselves, how long have you been at the indie comics game?
My son's 8. I started when we got pregnant with him. So, yeah, about 8.5 years, just over 8 years, almost 9 years. Before that, I was kind of writing stories here and there. And just like at that point, I just decided, yeah, I'm going to start writing graphic novels, comic, all that kind of stuff.
So let me get this straight. You had a kid and you decided now is the perfect time to delve into the lucrative world of self-publishing comics.
Yeah. You know what? The first,
that's brave, man.
When my son was born, he wasn't a sleeper. So he was up literally every 30 minutes. And it was hellish. Like I literally have got gaps in my memories from that time. And so what I used to do is I used to put up Post-it notes. And he used to say, okay, I'm going to do this today, and just like, or tomorrow I'm going to do this, and just put it up on the board. And I'd come in the morning, like literally out of my head, because I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I just saw the Post-it note and just had to just force myself to start working. And yeah, it's funny, like speaking to a number of other creators, they say, yeah, when you have kids, it kind of gets really tough and you can't really get the time to create. But for me, it was the opposite. It was just like I didn't have the energy to procrastinate.
Mm-hmm.
It was just literally just get head down, just do the work. So it was good. Yeah, it was quite productive, I think. I just had a good process going.
Congratulations on somehow beating the norm, first of all.
Thank you.
So you gave me 5 titles to read through. Did you write one at a time, or were these all like happening simultaneously, or was it kind of one after the other?
It was one after the other.
Okay.
So it was Strange Skies. That was a 7-issue series. Mm-hmm. But I just literally did it as a graphic novel. So it wasn't even, I didn't even think in terms of issues. It was just literally, this is a story. I need to get that story out, finish that thing, and then on to the next one, and then on to the next one. And then, so all of these are kind of like sequential. And then probably like a couple of books ago, I revisited Strange Skies again. I just did some edits and just cleaned stuff up. But yeah, it was just literally one book after the other. That's how it worked.
I have to tell you this. You don't fit the framework of the typical indie comics writer who is, you know, I mean, I've dabbled in a little writing myself, and I'm usually so scatterbrained that there's one story here, 7 stories there, another story over there. There's one that I threw out in the garbage. So the idea of actually being able to sit down, do one whole book. Now that's a whole graphic novel worth, Strange Skies, and then move right on to the next one, do that, and then on to the next one. You actually may have found your calling, despite the how typically indie comic creators work. So Strange Skies was your first book.
Strange Skies was my first book, yeah.
Okay, so Strange Skies has these people stuck on an airplane. Everybody was unconscious, and then waking up and they're kind of realizing some shit is going horribly, horribly wrong. And there's a whole bunch of trouble in the cabin. Catherine, the flight attendant, is very confused, and I have to hand it to Catherine. She's got her head about her. First thing she does is go and get the taser gun. Well done, Catherine. Yeah. Whereas Carl, like, kind of thinks who he is. He's like, "Oh, I'm the head flight attendant. I'm in charge here." Shut up, Carl. And then you got the air marshal who, like, I don't know, like at one point they could like, well, Marshall, and there was the quotes, and I'm like, who is this guy really? But at the end of the first issue, the climactic big splash page of, well, where are these people? What is happening? They're truly in some strange skies. It looks like some sort of portal to hell in the midst of a hurricane or something. This was awesome, man. Now, how'd you come up with this?
I don't know if it's just me, but when you're flying and everybody on the plane is asleep and you're looking out and you can't really see anything right out of the window. You might see some clouds, you might see some little bits of light and stuff like that from below, but you literally can't see anything. So you're literally just cut off from the world at this point. And so at that point, the things going through my head is like, we could be anywhere right now. You know, there's nothing that, if somebody said, you're not on planet Earth anymore, you know, that I've got no grounds to argue that, yes, we are on planet Earth. So that's kind of like where the idea came from. It's kind of like on this journey, but all there is right at this point is just a journey. There's no destination. There's no, I don't know if my origin, where it came from, exists, whether my destination, where I'm going to, exists. All I know is this thing exists right here, the journey, and what's outside could be anything. And that kind of what does that do to people on that journey? And that's kind of where the idea kind of originated from.
Wow, so I don't really like to fly as it is. I've never been on a long enough flight that I can say like everybody was asleep around me or anything. I've only been I think the longest flight I've been on was like 5 hours or so. But I don't generally like the idea of being 40,000 feet in the air in a floating box. But you've actually managed to increase my fear of it by adding some existential dread. So thanks for that. Like I never had honestly thought that, but now I'm never not going to think that. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to add to any existential dread.
I mean, I've always just like, okay, I'm going to trust the pilots on this. And obviously these people can't do that because that last splash page is just completely haunting what is happening to the pilot. Now, this is a 7-issue story?
This is a 7-issue story, yeah.
Okay, I'm looking forward to what happens next. And I don't want any spoilers. I don't want to know. Attack of the Marauders.
So Attack of the Marauders. That one, so it's about this guy, and they're on this island, and they've got these floating screens that they have called the feed, which is kind of like social network.
It looks like Facebook gone mad, basically.
Yeah, it's literally Facebook on steroids.
Yeah.
So then his dad turns into this creature that's hell-bent on destroying him and their civilized society. And it's all about him trying to figure out why did his dad turn.
Right, because all of a sudden, like these marauders, these like shadow creatures are basically looked at like they're, you know, anarchists kind of thing. Like all they want to do is destroy our, you said civilized society, and I couldn't possibly think of a worse term for these people, like what they're going through, because it really is this. It's like Facebook and Big Brother from 1984 had a horrendously horrible love child, and it's almost like a dystopian nightmare of like where we're going with the influence that social media has over us, and you know, so many people getting fake news, let's say, from all walks of like all our different friends, and you know what people are, and I'm going to use the word susceptible to believing, and we have no idea what's true and what's not anymore, because you know we're not out there, so we're not seeing it with our own eyes. You only have what either mainstream media is telling you on television, or what you're hearing, reading about, or just looking at a post from one of your friends on Facebook. So where does the line in the sand get drawn? What is true and what's not? So that was instantly the first thing I thought. Like, you want to talk about existential crisis. This one really hit home, especially in the world that we're living in now. And I'm like, I already know that these people are being lied to at some way, somehow. And these marauders that are like the societal pariahs are probably not that so much. And I just have a feeling, and don't correct me if I'm wrong. I want to know, and I'm going to find out on my own, that these guys and this kid's father are going to turn out to be like kind of the unsung heroes of the tale to save these people from just this mind-numbing labyrinth of misinformation that they're in, because they could basically be lied to right there in the billboards on the buildings. And it's like Times Square in New York City gone mad. It's so crazy.
And I think you basically summed up the themes of the book and what kind of originated.
I really like this one. Like this was probably one of my favorite ones.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's. I think because there's one, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but one of the phrases that I put in close to the end kind of sums up what the world that we live in is all about as well, which is words are basically the scaffolding of our reality. And I think that's really true for the times that we're living in, with social media, with news media, and we're kind of like, these are the words that we're provided, and then we're just building our reality on that scaffold.
Yeah.
And who's to say that scaffold is stable?
Absolutely right. One of the quotes that always kind of runs through my head, it was as I was reading this story, and I mean, let's face it, every day that you look through social media, or God forbid you watch the news, and I don't unfortunately know who said it, but it was believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. And it's like, you have to come to the conclusion yourself, and you're just constantly being not been lied to, but almost manipulated into like with a skewered side of the story. And and anytime you're in an argument with somebody, there's always three sides: there's yours, mine, and the truth. So somewhere in the middle there is going to be that like what's actually happening. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how these marauders came about, why they're covered in shadows. That was so creepy. And only the kid's dad's got his eye out there, which I thought was like kind of symbolic. Like he's still able to see kind of, I don't know. I was coming to all sorts of conclusions about this. And now this guy, Josh, is like a pariah. And you see all of like the comments that people are making, like, oh my God, I've been to their houses. I hope he dies, this and that. And, like, oh God, you can't trust anybody. And like all of his family members are trying to reach out and like, what are we going to do? Because now everybody hates us because your dad, husband, brother, whomever became one of these marauders.
Yeah.
So crazy. And there's a lot of things you can akin something like that to in social media, where you just say one false thing and you're done. You're done.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, like, because this one I wrote it was quite some time ago. It's probably good that people should read this stuff. And I sent it to one of the reviewers picked up on Attack of the Marauders, and they said, "Oh, this is about Brexit, isn't it?" And I was like, "It could be about Brexit, but it was written a very long time ago, and these kind of things are cyclical. Like now, it could be, oh well, this is about this, isn't it? Or this is about this. It's
one of those things that you can associate with whatever is happening now.
Yeah."
It's almost prophetic.
And also depressing, because you could kind of like see, like you're going through, we're just kind of repeating the same thing over and over again. We're kind of like proving these things again and again and again. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, I mean, it's nice that it could stay fresh and relevant, but the fact that it is fresh and relevant is really depressing.
Yeah. And I do have to say, and some of the fans out there in Pete's Basement Land know, and I've been promising them the conspiracy theory episode for quite some time, and I still haven't delivered, but I am very much a conspiracy theorist in that, like, I like to explore, let's say, all forms of information. So I would definitely be the guy, like, All right, deuces, I'm out. I'm going to go with the shadow people because they seem like they know what's up.
Yeah. I just want to find out what these shadow people are all about. I'll come back in tomorrow.
Yeah, and then I'll try to tell you people the truth, and then none of you are going to believe me anyway.
Yeah, because it's all going to be my subjective perspective of what's really happening, and the objective truth is somewhere out there, which nobody will ever get to know.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel, especially a lot given the last several months that you try to tell people something and they're like, not again.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other episode. It's coming, people. I promise you it's coming.
The next one after that was Aya Begum. I wanted to write something that was for kids specifically, and also something that kind of lends itself to my ethnic roots, so Bangladesh. So this is about like a paranormal investigator, young Bangladeshi girl living in the slums in Bangladesh, and about the cast of characters around her and those kind of adventures.
It had its really cute moments. I will say that. I'm not going to say it's a cute story because then you've got that rich douchebag who I don't even know enough about him, but I know I don't like him.
Yeah.
But like I really appreciated the way that the book starts off so very subtle, where the opening dialogue is kind of about life and just how like fleeting it is, and how the best time to see death is right before sunset. And you've got this kid walking through the road, and he's got his little like farm thing on his shoulder, and you figure here's your main character, and then all of a sudden the leaf falls to the ground and that disappears, and you're like, okay, like, and I didn't pick up on that first. I did not. And then you turn the page, and here's this girl looking at this kid, and the kid, like, all of a sudden he's shocked and he disappears. And that was like a really heavy moment. As this girl watches him disappear, I think even he kind of comes to the conclusion, holy shit, I'm dead. And she sees this happening, and then that's when I went back and I was like, oh, the leaf died. And she saw that's why it disappeared. And I was like, okay, now I know what I'm in for. And it seems to be like a pretty serious story disguised as a kid's adventure, because obviously the kid is the star of the show, but she's also got her dad, who I'm sure is probably struggling with the loss of his wife or mom, and I'm assuming that was her brother who maybe she saw, because this guy, this rich douchebag, who clearly once he encounters them, he knows them somehow, and I'm just drawing my own conclusions of how he could possibly know. And I'm like, what, did he hit this kid with his car or something horrible like that? Because when they pass him, she pitches that rock through his tail light, which I was like, nice going, kid. There wasn't a lot in this, but like as far as where the story can go, but there was a lot of really great character development in this first issue. So this girl, along with seeing dead people, dead plants, dead whatever, not only she's able to see, but like everybody is just able to see this jinn, these eyes in a far, like, and I'm just like, what the hell is that thing? I mean, I've heard of jinn before. I saw Wishmaster, dope horror movie from the 90s, if nobody's ever seen that. And I'm a big fan of Supernatural. They've dealt with jinn, but I've never seen a giant one with eyes the size of trees before. So I'm going to have to ask for a little bit of a spoiler, like what's happening in the second issue there.
So what happens after that is everybody's response to that entity that's appeared in there. So they're assuming it's a jinn. So then that douchebag city guy, he really wants that forest. And I think that's kind of like and so he really wants
the land because it's undeveloped, and he's like, these people don't belong there. Like they're just like kind of squatting on the land. Yes.
Yeah, so this is kind of like land unclaimed by anybody, and he feels like these village dwellers have just kind of claimed this land, where he really wants to claim this land for development purposes and whatever. So it's just about that kind of reaction to now this land is haunted or cursed, so then nobody can have claim to this land anymore, and then it's kind of it just builds from there. So that's from the second issue. It's like, okay, so none of you can have this now. This thing, none of you can come in here. And it's like, what are they going to do next? So the douchebag guy, he really is he's going to be trying to make moves to try and get rid of it, just so that he can claim that land.
And then subsequently kick all these people out of their homes and whatnot.
Yeah.
I have to. One thing I laughed at was, everybody's like staring at these eyes. They're like, "Oh my god, it's a djinn! What's going on?" And Aya's father comes along and is like, "Nope, we're going home." And I advise all of you people to do the same. And then like, okay, well, I guess we'll just go home then. And then the next morning, like, oh shit, it's still here. Might as well go get everybody and bring them back because it didn't go away.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? When we're in Bangladesh, you kind of see it's one of the things about Bangladesh, and one of the differences about living in the village over there is that it's just kind of almost accepted that there's going to be some crazy shit now and again. So, and then when you do see some crazy shit, it's like, just hold your nerve, get past it. Tomorrow's a new day. It's kind of like that's the kind of that's what you do there. It's like you don't dwell on it. You don't go chasing after it. It's just kind of like, yep, crazy shit just happened. Well, let's just go to bed, and tomorrow's a new day. So that reaction, I really wanted to get that reaction in there, because it really is from what I remember being a kid, being out there. Because I remember going out, and it's based on a village that from my mum's dad's side. And I remember going out there when I was younger with just me, my mum, and my uncle. And me and my uncle used to walk into the village at night by oil lanterns, because there's no electricity anywhere. Then we'd go to the market, and everybody had their oil lanterns and stuff. And while you're walking there, I used to see like these big snakes crossing the paths and stuff. And like uncle's like, yeah, just let it pass, and just let's just walk along. And and you kind of like think, what other? I saw some huge spiders, like, and it's probably my memory playing tricks, but they were pretty humongous. And all of that in the night, when you've got your oil lantern like lighting just parts of what you can see, and your imagination has to fill in the rest. And yeah, from that perspective, it's just kind of like, well, it's crazy shit is out there. Just focus on where you need to go. And yeah, I really wanted to get that kind of mindset across, because it's kind of like part and parcel of what it's like to live out there.
I like the idea. Like, you're absolutely right. Let your imagination fill in the rest, and that can always jump to some really truly wild conclusions. You got plant life.
That was kind of like it's just kind of I looked at my other stories that I'd done before, and I thought I was being a little bit too restrained, and I just wanted to cut loose a little bit. So yeah, plant life was for me cutting loose, and it wasn't going crazy for the sake of going crazy and weirdness for the sake of going weird. It was just kind of like, well, this is a story I want to tell. This seems like a weird choice. Fuck it, just do it.
Yeah.
So then,
this was a weird one, man. And I don't know if I'm saying the name of the flower correctly. Ophrelda?
Ophrelda, yeah.
Ophrelda, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't understand at first, like within the first few pages, kind of what's happening. There's a whole bunch of people lying either unconscious or dead around these big ass flowers. And then this woman just kind of gets up and starts looking around. And then you find out that she's the detective named Priscinda. Cool name, by the way. And, she seems to be like a bit of a favorite for the captain that the other cop is like just a little jealous of. And, she's going around and she's looking into all of these cases. And I did not register that this plant is somehow a killer like a killer plant. And it hit me when, you know, they're investigating the murder in the apartment, and she opens up like the kitchen cabinet, and there's one of these things under the sink, and somebody yells "creeper," and I'm like, oh, it's been the plants all along. And then I went immediately back to the first page, and now I start looking. I'm like, all these people are around these big ass versions of that little plant that was under the sink. And now I'm thinking of like Little Shop of Horrors or something like that. And I'm like, where is this going? Is it the smell of the flower? Is it these? And you do an interesting close up of the well, biology class is out the window. I don't remember the parts of the flower, stamen, stem, petals, whatever. But the center of the flower is all like kind of interesting looking, and it looks like these little things coming out of it. And for you guys on YouTube, it's popping up on screen right now as a close-up, so you can
tendrils.
see what I'm
I think they call them tendrils. We'll call them tendrils.
Let's call them tendrils. Yeah, and it looks like it. I don't know if they shoot out, if they grab you, but it looks horrifying. I'll tell you that much.
And the second issue for that, like I'll give you a little bit of spoiler because it kind of, I think it starts with that. You find out that the city is basically being encroached on by plant life. So you've got the city, and then the plant life is just advancing at a non-stop rate, and they've got these liquid sprayers, like just spraying out guns, spraying out liquid, dousing these plants, killing them, and all the while the plants continually they're advancing, and plants have been outlawed for humans to be around. So, so I'm writing a screenplay based on that at the moment. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of like shifting things around a little bit, and I'm probably going to revisit plant life and redo it, and just probably like add like another 3 issues or something on top. Because for this one, it's kind of like, yes, it's kind of, I wanted to stretch myself out a little bit, but I didn't want to go nuts and spend too much time with the artist doing all that kind of stuff. But now that I'm writing the screenplay, and the more that I kind of think about it, the more kind of like, yeah, I want to go deep in a little bit deeper into this, restructure things around. But it's kind of like, yeah, these plants encroaching on humans, these humans kind of reacting by outlawing plants. So yeah, it's kind of dark.
Yeah, I really appreciate the juxtaposition of the title as well, plant life, and it's these plants that are somehow killing these people. So it's not life at all.
Are they, yeah. So are they killing them? Are they showing them a new life? It's the original title was going to be plant/life. But I thought it was too kind of on the nose. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask you then how the plants are killing people, because I'm going to assume that's a spoiler. So I'm just going to leave that alone then. I'll just read the book then. So the last one you sent me was XYZ. Yeah. Now, this one stars Abin, who has this book, How to Completely Disappear, and Abin is kind of struggling in school because he's different. He's the only Asian guy amongst a bunch of what looks like preppy white kids, and they're giving him shit. And he just like, I'm not sure where it transitions from. You want to metaphorically disappear, like you just don't want to be noticed by these people. Just let me get through school and leave me the frig alone, to actually physically disappearing, apparating into different places and things like that. Firstly, I do want to ask: Is this a more personal story? Is this from experience? Tell us about that, if you will.
So it's based on. So I grew up in this school, and I just like that. I mean, I wasn't the only Asian kid in school, but the other Asian kid was super popular. Like he was a track athlete, and he was super intelligent, and everybody kind of adored him. But if you're just like an average guy and happen to be Asian in an all-white school, then it's kind of like you're below average, or you're kind of, it's it's that kind of thing. So the XYZ is very personal. Like I say, the events in it are not true, but I always say that the feelings in it are. So there's lots of little bits and pieces of that. So it's just to kind of like make sure I don't get sued or anything. None of them are actually based on real people.
No, I don't think somebody would actually be like literally disappearing, but this was the first story I read just because I don't know, it was the first link that I clicked on of the stuff that you sent me, and as I'm reading it, I'm just like kind of wow, this is, you immediately get a feel for the character, and obviously I wasn't an Asian kid in the midst of a whole bunch of white kids in school, but I was at the same time a comic nerd in the midst of people who weren't, and that didn't go for high school. High school was actually easier because I went to an art high school, so we were all nerds, and it made life easier for getting along. But prior to that, middle school, whatever, you do feel, and I don't think there are probably very few people within the population who don't feel that level of alienation in some way or form. So this story immediately hit home, even for me, and obviously not as much as it would for some other people reading it, but I immediately got a feel for the character, and I understood his need to disappear. Like, just please leave me alone. Stop noticing me. There's other interesting shit out there. Leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody who has not felt that at some point in their lives.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of it is kind of like a universal truth in some way. So I think you're absolutely right. Like, you can be alienated in different ways in different circumstances. And like you said, being a comic nerd in a non-comic nerds, that is true as well. Yeah, this was the most recent book that I wrote. Yeah, I think in the second issue, it's like, because the story's about him alienated, wanting to escape, and then he inadvertently releases his inner demons. So now he's got to try and pull himself back together. So
there's a lot of weird shit that's happening at the end there that he's kind of questioning his own reality. Like, did that actually happen, or did I imagine the whole thing? And it's really cool also because there's the one girl that's kind of mirroring his experiences. She seems to be one of the popular ones, but she's also adverse to the shit that they do, and she seems to be like his one friend. And a lot of times we all do have that one friend, that one confidant that even maybe from an unsung walk of life that you never expected to have this friend. So this book, I think, can hit a lot of notes with a lot of people who grew up reading comics and anybody that felt ostracized in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know any nerd that doesn't or hasn't. This was a really cool, very down to earth book for as much apparating and disappearing as happened. It still hits all the main points of, as the kiddies would say, right in the feels.
Yeah. So like you say, it's a personal book, and I really wanted to make sure that from that perspective that I give it as much authenticity and coverage, and kind of like not kind of shy away from it in any way, not pull punches, but just really go after that subject and kind of explore it in a way with lots of supernatural weirdness and stuff like that.
So, like, also, besides writing, I noticed you also drew quite a few of these. You also dabble in drawing. So, how fun was that?
I'll be honest, for Strange Skies, which was the first book, so I drew that. That was painful. That was super, super painful. Because basically at one point I remember, I think it was about 6 or 7 months in, and then I was out in the park, and I had like RSI on my wrist, and I was absolutely tired, and I was halfway into the story, and I was thinking, just I just want to give up, but it's just too hard. But yeah, they just kind of like kept on with it, and then after that, just you get used to it. But now I don't do as much of the artwork because we just want to keep that momentum going with lots of stories, get a lot more stories up. But I'm sure I drive artists crazy with just because I supply them with not only a script but also a whole bunch of images for us mood boards and stuff like that. And it's like reference images and kind of like page layouts and say this is how I'm envisaging it, but you can do it some other way if you want to. But the reason why I've done it that way is because of the themes are this and that. So it's like these scripts are kind of have a tendency to get quite large. Yeah, but it was good because I had that started off as a writer and artist. I kind of understand when to hit the page with words and when to hit the page with art. So the showing rather than telling sort of thing. So a lot of the time I kind of like, which is why I'm kind of really specific to the artist, because I'll say I actually don't want to put in any words on the next 2 pages, for example. So the artwork is going to have to convey the story, convey the themes, convey the emotive beats and stuff like that. So that's a lot of stuff.
Right. So you've really run the gamut of indie creation. You've written, you've drawn, and then realized that that's a lot of damn work. So at that point, you start farming the artwork out. And I got to tell you, the artwork on these books is absolutely phenomenal. By the way, how do you go about finding your artists?
I've been quite lucky in a way. Like Priscilla Gripper, the artist for Plant Life, and I'm working with her at the moment on my current book, which is this 13-issue one, and we're in issue 6 at the moment. Nothing's been released yet. I'll probably do it, when we're closer to the end point, and I'll start releasing them. The Attack of the Marauders is kind of like a lynch point, I think, with a pinning point for a lot of for deciding to go with different artists. Because there's a version of that book where I did all of the artwork, and Attack of the Marauders is Priscilla Gripper, who did Plant Life as well. And when I did the Attack of the Marauders, and I rushed it because I basically just wanted to get that done and go on to the next one. But then afterwards, when I'm lettering and stuff, it's kind of like, this is really not good. I'm really not doing the finishing the way I should be doing the finishing. Really not putting the care and the attention to detail that I should be doing. So then I started looking around and sent out, put my 2 pages up on Upwork and just said, look, I'm just looking for somebody who can redraw the entire book, hit me up with some art styles and stuff. And yeah, it just happened to come along Priscilla, and she's amazing. She is absolutely amazing. And the working with her has been so easy as well. Just kind of, I just hit her up with some notes and this and that, just bombard her. So for example, the Attack of the Marauders is a very clear theme about words and the impact on reality and stuff like that. And if it doesn't hit that point, then I'm not interested in telling that story. So working with Pris, she was just very open to taking on, okay, so what do you want to do? What are the themes? Okay, this is the thing. How about this? How about this? And I've never actually spoken to her because she's Italian and she says her English isn't that good. So we kind of communicate on Slack a lot and communicate with images and stuff, just drawing and just being very, very lucky with the artist. And for Mild Frenzy, which is where I do some of the short stories, is where I kind of started to use it as more of a kind of test bed to new artists. So some of these 4-page stories, which I give away on an email newsletter, and also collected in Mild Frenzy collection, which is second volume is coming soon. And then that's where I kind of trial. How do I work with artists? Oh yeah, they don't get that. So some of them not quite gel with the stories I want to tell. So finding that right kind of mix, and once you do, then yeah, you stick with them. And
Once you've got them, like, you're amazing. We're gonna continue doing this.
yeah, and
She's absolutely phenomenal. A lot of, honestly, I love the artwork in these books, and sometimes, unfortunately, like some indie books kind of suffer with either writing or artwork, but yours don't on either page. So kudos to you, man. Well done.
Oh, thank you so much.
So now you say you've got another book in the works right now with Priscilla. That's going to be 13 issues. What can you tell us about that? What can we look forward to?
So this one is, so I've been knee deep in research for this at the moment. So it's set in the 19th century, and so India was colonized by, you have the East India Company, which used to kind of like run a lot of basically just pillaging India in a way. And so then at some point they became bankrupt, and then the British Raj took over. And so this story is based on that point. So it's a mystery. It's supernatural. So it's like this smoking skeleton character who has emerged in India, and it's killed this prominent guy who was part of the East India Company. And how all of these kind of things is just part of the mystery, part of the puzzle that's going to be put together. So the main character is this Indian guy. Actually, I'm not going to say anymore, because I was going to say something which is kind of like I think a twist at the end of the first issue. So it's probably best I don't say that. But yeah, it's kind of like the India of that period, and East India Company and shit that they did. But it's not kind of it's not like it's a lecture.
Right.
Just like a murder mystery that happens to play out in this environment, and all of this stuff just kind of happens.
Well, it's nice to be able to put a story like that just in a particular setting and see where and how that setting affects the story itself. So you've given us something to look forward to. Now the question is, where can everybody find your books? Because hopefully I'm already interested, and hopefully by talking about all of this at length, we've given the folks out there in Pete's Basement Land enough that they want to track down your stories as well, especially the new one that you've got coming. And you've got 5, and you've got even more stories than that, just all compiled together that you mentioned earlier. You've got other stuff. So where can we find all of these? You've got whole graphic novels just waiting to be picked up.
Yeah, if you come to my site, which is iqbala.com. So if you go to iqbala.com, you can sign up to a newsletter. You get the first issues of all these books for free. I also send out, like, I'm working on the newsletter series, which I send out like regularly, short stories, some short comics.
So that's how we get the newsletter, is by going to that website and signing up and just, okay, cool.
Yeah, and also if you like and follow Instagram, Iqbal A Comics, and Facebook page, Iqbal A Comics. But yeah, otherwise go to iqbala.com and just sign up to the newsletter, and then that's where you start to get something that start to send you a lot of this kind of stuff.
That was going to be my next question, was, are there physical copies of the books, or is it exclusively digital?
There are physical copies of the book available on Amazon.
Okay,
and if you go to my website, you can buy physical copies of those books, because I link off to the Amazon stores for those. So yeah, the physical copies are available. It's only the collections are available. So the entire graphic novels are collected as printed books, and then the separate issue by issues are all digital.
Oh, fantastic, man! Listen. There are some people who like to read just exclusively digital. There are some people who like to see those graphic novels in their library on their shelves. So it's important to have something for everybody. I'm very digital now. I never thought I'd be, but I am. And
I've gone digital as well. Yeah, that's much. Yeah.
I have thoroughly enjoyed these, and you can absolutely count on me picking up the rest of these and giving a thorough review of them as the months go on. As you know, we're stuck in quarantine, and all I've got to do is read at this point. So at least you've given me something to enjoy. So
I'll
thank
send
you
you
for
the book.
that.
Yeah, I'll send you books for Fruit. So if you're,
I appreciate that, man, but I'd like to send you something as well. You know, I always say that we should support our indie creators because they deserve our support way more than the larger companies. Like the indie creators are so much more in touch with, I think, their audience than sometimes they're giving credit for.
Yeah,
so
thanks, man. I appreciate it, and you're right. Actually, there's a lot of talk at the moment about poor Marvel, poor DC, and all that kind of stuff. But they're going to be fine.
Yeah, like really, I don't buy into any of that shit.
Yeah. And but the indie comics, I think there's some of the books I've been reading, the indie comic scene. It's such an exciting place to be a part of that as well. It's
fantastic, man. Thank you for allowing me to read the first issues. They're awesome books, and I hope you guys out there in Peach Basement Land have been thoroughly interested by this. And I hope you go out there and you pick up some of these. Yeah, they're really good, and you can expect reviews of all of these books in the future because I'm interested enough that I'm going to go pick them up and I want to read the rest of them. So thank you, man, for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for all the hard work you do for the indie comics thing.
I try, man. Thank you very much. It's been a great show, bro. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks. I really enjoyed it.
You guys out there on Peach Basement Land, you know how to find us. Questions at peachbasement.com, facebook.com/Peach Basement, Instagram, Twitter, etc. at Peach Basement. Make sure you go and check out Iqbal's books. Yo, I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Maybe all of them ain't for you, but I promise you, you'll find a few that are. They're great, man. Great writing, great show. Thanks for coming on. Salud, brother.
Thank you. Thanks. See you, brother. Thanks.
Peach Basement is copyrighted 2020. Ripped Productions. All rights reserved. So go fuck yourself.
I am very much a conspiracy theorist. Let me try that again. As an aside, I have to say, like, I can tell none of these people in the story were white folks because nobody was dumb enough to just walk right into the woods, which is exactly what every idiot in them horror movies is going to do. I 100% fit into that stereotype of, no, I'm going to walk into the haunted house because I'm stupid. I am. Like.